Piss and Vinegar Day 132. Delts and biceps. So, I wasn't supposed to train today, but I woke up in a fucking steamy mood. No, I didn't wake up in a steamy mood. I got some shit fucking pissed me off today. Long story short, bought a guitar, wanted this guitar for a very long time. Someone worked on it. They fucked it up. It no longer works. They're not taking responsibility. Then it went through another guy to get it fixed. He didn't do any better and he actually had a heart attack, which is not his fault, but you know, it is what it is. This guitar's just fucking not working now. Pissed me off. Super, super pissed off today. I gotta refund it. And anyway, but boohoo, poor me. But the topic today is going to be, using anger as fuel. So, for a long time, I have anxiety, I have PTSD, but nowadays it doesn't really affect me because of numerous different factors. But one thing is when you get older, as a man, as you become a less degenerate, more stable man, you start to not really fear things so much anymore, but anger starts to become more prevalent. So for a long time, I had anxiety, I still do, but I had it like cripplingly so, and that was my baseline emotion, was just fucking anxiety all the time. Nowadays, my baseline emotions are probably a bit more somewhere in the middle of all the emotions, but I tend to be a little bit quicker to anger now. And back then, back when I was like an anxious 20-year-old that was just kind of a bit of a loser, I really didn't really have any anger. And that's not necessarily a good thing. Like, anger is a very powerful emotion if you use it correctly. And today, I had too much anger. I was just, there's a difference between being just generally frustrated with the world around you and how you are, but generally being relatively happy and, positively thinking, but letting the anger using the fuel of anger, correctly, just a little bit of anger. And then there's anger that is devastating, that makes you fucking moody and a real piece of shit to be around. And that was kind of the anger that I was having today. But in saying that, if you have that kind of anger, there's still benefits to that. If I felt like this all the time, I'd probably be more motivated to do things, because I wasn't supposed to work out today, but because I was so fucking lividly angry, I was like, I have to work out. If I don't work out right now, I'm going to lose my shit. So I worked out and, it cooled me down a little bit. But also, whether it might not just be working out in this case. It could be, putting all your mental effort into business because you're just fucking frustrated, or something positive. So, if you're a really angry son of a bitch, I would try to use that as fuel as much as possible. Now, obviously, there's a certain level of anger where it just simply becomes destructive and it's not going to benefit you or others. Or if it could benefit you. You look at Mike Tyson. There isn't a man alive that's been angrier than how angry Mike Tyson used to be, and he used that fuel to become, one of the greatest boxers of all time. And there's plenty of examples of this, especially in, African American youths who have typically higher testosterone and aggression on average. They also have good genetics for sports, but they grow up in a shitty, poor neighborhood, and they use that aggression to become incredible athletes. So it can be used, but obviously you want to mitigate it a little bit, because Mike Tyson, even himself, says he was a miserable fucking person for the first half of his life, if not more. So, it's like, yeah, you could use it, but you're going to be a miserable person. So if I was this angry all the time, I would feel like shit. And even though I'd be grinding and potentially succeeding even more, I just don't see the benefits to that. And it would crush people around me because it just brings everyone down. But yeah, today, I just felt steamy. And I decided, all right, fuck it, I'll work out. And it helped. Working out helps. And previously, when I would get angry, working out wouldn't help as much, because I used to do volume days where you're not putting as much intensity as you possibly can into things. But now that I'm training with high intensity, it is a perfect outlet for anger, because you're pushing your central nervous system, your adrenal systems, every ounce of your energy into a set. So if you have all this energy, which is only going to fuel your baseline emotion at the time, which is anger, if you can try and expel some of that energy, you're still probably going to be a bit angry. I'm still fucking pissed, but I'm less pissed than before I worked out, or bit, yeah, less pissed than I am before I worked out. So, same thing applies for anxiety. I have anxiety, so when I do high intensity training, I feel less anxious afterwards. That might be part of why my anxiety is better nowadays. Is I switched to high intensity training, so I actually really put my piss and vinegar into my training. Whereas with volume, I often didn't really push that hard. So maybe part of, you know, training high intensity lowered my anxiety. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it. Why my anxiety is better nowadays. I mean, it's also becoming a more logical person. The closer you can become to logic as a man, the more responsible with your emotions you will be. And high intensity training is kind of like a cornerstone, or I'm not sure what the word would be here, but it's like kind of a proxy of that, where through logic you come to the conclusion of high intensity training. It's like there's a logical and illogical solution to everything, and like in training, logic prevails through high intensity, whereas logic being illogical oftentimes prevails itself through volume. I mean, not always. There's plenty of examples of volume being the more logical option depending on the context. But anyway, I'm going off track and getting too fucking esoteric with this. But basically, fucking steamy mood today. My favorite example of an angry fucking person is, oh man, what's his name? There's a guy, you might have seen him before. He's like this. We went viral for this clip where he's like, "I'm in a steamy mood today. Don't know why. Probably because I live in fucking Birmingham. I can't remember his name. Darren G, something like that. This, fuck it, man. Hold on. I'm gonna pause the video. Fuck. All right, I found it. Look up Danny G on YouTube. Danny G, happiest man in Birmingham. This dude is rage personified. I watched a few of his videos, and it's funny though because you watch his videos and he's actually a pretty good dude. He's a family man. He's a good dad. He just lives in fucking Birmingham, so he's pissed all the time, and he grew up in a shitty, environment. And I don't know his exact backstory. I think he was on a podcast. Might have went to jail or something. I might be mixing him up with some other British dude. But basically, this dude's angry as fuck. I don't know why I'm even bringing this up. I just think it's fucking funny. That's why I said I woke up in a steamy mood. That's a reference to him. It's a very funny video. Go watch it. Now I've totally gone off track. I don't know where I am. But basically, yeah, if you're angry, ascertain whether or not the anger is a benefit or a negative in your life. Like nowadays, in this like kind of sanitized lefty style fucking psychology that people do nowadays. Not all psychologists, but a lot of psychologists will be more like, oh, we need to, love ourselves. It's all about love. Don't use anger. Don't think about the darkness. Ignore that shit. And it's like, no, man. The best psychoanalyst of all time, Carl Jung, who is bastardized nowadays by psychologists because he was much more right-leaning in his ideology, which, I mean, fucking politics really shouldn't bring into psychology in the first place because it's redundant, but that's how it goes. That he's bastardized nowadays by general psychologists, but his whole thing was we have a shadow, and part of your shadow, or like your darker self, is anger. I mean, anger, or evil, or sadness, or any of these darker emotions. Now, anger, again, doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. Like, there are times where anger is incredibly warranted, and like the emotion that you most definitely should be using. Like, if you're out in public and, you're out with, say, your wife and kids, and they're being attacked, by all means, anger is the perfect emotion to be thinking about at that time. Well, then maybe the perfect emotion would be to be stoic and think as plain as possible to, defend your family or whatever it is, but like, hopefully you understand what I'm saying. Anger isn't this thing where it's like we shouldn't be feeling it. Like, we should feel all emotions. It's the same as like guys always trying to be happy. You can't always be happy. You can't always be, feeling good. You can't always be feeling kind. Sometimes you feel angry. So anger isn't necessarily the enemy. You just have to use it correctly, and you can't let it consume you. And if you do, well, at least make it beneficial for you and the people around you, if you can. Anyway, pretty much rant over. I'm no expert in anger because I'm honestly not that much of an angry person, but I have bouts of anger, especially lately as I get older and more, just basically, for lack of a better word, without sounding cringe and like fucking manosphere, just become more of a man. You get angry when you get older as a man. I mean, that's like the whole thing where it's like, oh, why is my dad so angry? And then you become your dad and you realize why your dad's so fucking angry all the time. But yeah, I'm no expert because again, I'm a pretty light-hearted person. I don't get angry. It's very hard for me to get angry actually, or genuinely angry. I have sort of a humorous anger in the same way that I have like humorous sadness, where things that anger me, I'll like exaggerate and say shit to like whoever I'm with and be like, you know, oh, I want to kill that person or do this or that, and I'll like do like some crazy like escalation of the reality at hand, but it's like a humorous thing. It's almost like that's how I stop myself from being truly angry, is by seeing the humor in it and then almost pretend I'm angrier than I really am when obviously I'm pretending. I don't know how to explain it. That's how I do it. That's how anger works for me normally. And that works. I'm angry, but I diffuse it with some sort of lightheartedness. Hopefully you understand that. If you can use that, that's a really powerful tool because that's worked for me. But sometimes you just genuinely feel so slighted and betrayed or pissed off that obviously you can't use humor to cope with that. And some people do. Some people do use, you know, humor to cope with sadness and anger and emotions like that. And that's not healthy at all. That's just outright denying your shadow, denying reality. You then have to use that energy as fuel somehow. Otherwise, you just burn. That's, I don't know. Hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, I guess yeah. If you're an angry fucking cunt, try to see the humor in why you're angry, and then if you genuinely are warranted to be angry without humor, then by all means, but then use it as fuel. That's it. I don't need to rant any more on this. Hopefully that helps anyone. Or I mean, this is more of a rant from me to kind of put things in perspective. That's why I like doing these videos. I put my own inner dialogue out my mouth, and then it kind of will make sense. And then doing some posing. At this point, I'm just doing the same old fucking poses to get a thumbnail for my screenshots because my videos do better when I use thumbnails of me flexing. So at this point, I don't even give a fuck about flexing. I really don't give a shit about my posing. It's simply just to try and get more views. So anyway, see you guys for more Piss and Vinegar. Bye bye.